Hello everyone. It is a remarkably special day today. It is, as you are probably fully aware by the title of the damn show, episode 50 of It's a Wonderful Podcast. Nolan, we've hit half a century of episodes. Are you excited?
Yep, although I'm not that excited for the show because age 50, you're going to get those creaks in the bones, your hair's going to start to go grey,
But you also become more wise.
True.
You become more world-weary, and we're aging like fine wine, Nolan. We're aging
Fair
like
enough.
fine wine. We're not aging like some sort of ghoul or old crone.
Like Anthony Michael Hall. Didn't age
Like
well.
Anthony Michael Hall
Did not age well.
that well. We are instead aging like who's aged well? Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren, George Clooney.
Or George Clooney, who still isn't that old, I guess, is he? But we're aging like a vampire, which is to say they don't actually age and stay roughly looking 40 years old until they are 3,000.
That's good, because when we get to episode 80, I don't want to send the podcast to a care home.
No, we're not sending the podcast to a care home, but we do have something quite unique and quite special this week, because we thought, well, it's episode 50. We've got to do something special, and you probably heard us if you listened to last week's episode, where we were again joined by Rachel Silverstreeny talking Paint Your Wagon, which was a bit of a ridiculous movie, but it was fun. We clearly didn't have an idea of what we were going to do for episode 50, but full credit, Rachel was the one who suggested doing this to me, and I thought, this sounds fun, this sounds very fun. So I suggested it to you, and you agreed.
It did.
And we do have a couple of questions that people asked, which we will answer at the towards the end of the episode after the main bulk. There was a little calling for questions put out a couple of days ago. I know it wasn't a great deal of time, but thank you to those who did ask those questions, and we will answer those. I have those written down. But the main bulk of today's episode, we're not focusing on one movie as we have done for the previous 49. Today we have a very special personal top 5 movies we have covered so far on this show. We each have individual lists. We do not know what each other has. I have a couple of honourables as well. Do you have a couple of honourables?
I can come up with a couple of honourables right now. I just have a top 5 list, but
Well, it doesn't matter. I like too many of the movies we've done, and it was difficult for me because I famously don't like ranking things, but did kind of have to create a top 5 list. That is kind of how it works, in case you weren't aware.
Next you're going to be doing fucking CinemaSins stuff.
Certainly not. You never fear. I will not become a negative Norbert.
Nancy.
I don't like using Nancy, I like using Norbert instead, because, of course, Norbert is the dragon from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And that's not why I like using the word Norbert, because I've just come up with that right now. But, yes, let's get into... Actually, before we get into the top 5 list, I know you put out a very special conversation, shall we say, this week that you've been talking about for quite a while. So, to hell with it. Talk about that for a little bit before we get into the bulk.
So, as you all know, I'm in the LGBTQ writing community as a queer writer, and I met someone called Andrew Joseph White, who's a transgender author, 20 years old, and if you've listened to the show, you'll see me and him are kind of exact opposites when we approach our storytelling. Like, the first thing he mentions in the interview is when he was younger, he wrote a story about unicorns murdering poachers.
Oh, yes.
So we just we had a little talk about like inspiration and how our own struggles with being LGBTQ goes into our work, what we want to do with our work, stuff like that. And also a weird thing where we ended up pitching a bunch of Venom sequels. I don't know how that got in there, but
hey,
there that
tangents tangents can happen. We know full well that you can get into some weird territory if you let two people talk for any length of time.
Yeah, but that was like a really fun discussion. I mean, I don't envy you now with editing audio. I spent like 2 hours editing down the audio in this, just fixing up the echoes and everything like that. But it was worth
that's
it.
a shame.
About an hour and a half of me and AJ just chatting about our work, talking about stuff in the writing community some people might not be aware of, and more or less what we want to do as authors. So if you have an hour and a half to kill, go listen to that. It's really fun.
Yeah, and where is that? Where's that? Where can people go listen?
That's just on my YouTube channel. I was gonna have a video essay out about Big this week, but I'd spent so much time editing this, I haven't gotten around to it yet. So, but that's coming soon anyway.
Good, lovely. Go and check that out, guys. That sounds fun. I think I'm far more into AJ's style of writing about murderous unicorns than potentially your quite sweet version of events.
Hey, mine has a teenager who tries to kill a little girl. It's not all unicorns and fairies.
But the heroes in AJ's are the murderous unicorns. Is that correct?
That is correct.
See, I'm all about that. Applause to AJ and applause to you. And yeah, go and check that out, guys. Surely a fun and insightful and interesting discussion. But you know what else?
Go follow AJ as well, because he posts a lot of really cool stuff.
Definitely. Go and where's he found? Where can he be?
At AJ White Author, I believe his tag is.
Perfect. Okay. I just wanted to let you do that because I know that's been something that you've been wanting to do and been excited about doing for a while. And
very much so. Yeah.
Start off this very special episode with that. But I've just remembered because I have a little. I actually have a little running order for this week because I had to write stuff down for the.
Writing stuff down
for the top 5. It's so unusual. We don't do this here, but it has reminded me that we got a nice new Apple Podcasts review from someone.
We did.
And I have been meaning to read this out for weeks, and I am sorry to Bill Nye the Critic guy, not the science guy.
The critic.
Bill Nye the Critic guy, who has left a lovely review on our Apple Podcasts feed. I don't know if the science guy listens to the show. Probably doesn't, but, you know, who knows? If Bill Nye the science guy's out there, maybe you can have a rivalry with Bill Nye the Critic guy in terms of who's the better fan of It's a Wonderful Podcast. Bill Nye the Science Guy doesn't have an Apple Podcast review, but Bill Nye the Critic guy does, so I don't know about you, but I'm in favour of the Critic guy right now.
I'm into it. What did he say?
He said, "Somebody once told me that this podcast was a good one." And you notice how he gets the references, which is good. But yes, he says, "Somebody once told me that this podcast was a good one. So I took a listen and heard 2 really dedicated old souls with a love for the motion pictures. Give it a listen. You won't regret it." So thank you very much to Bill Nye, the Critic guy, for that glowing review.
I love that Shrek has become so ingrained in our podcast now that it's
So
now
do
part
I.
of the reviews.
So do I. It's perfect. So yes, guys, if you can go over and onto our Apple Podcasts and leave a glowing review like Bill Nye the Critic guy this week, and we will read it out. I promise it won't take about 17 months like it took me to find and read Bill's out. But yes, just go on over, leave us a nice 5-star review over there, and we will read it. And we love you forever. You join our wonderful people. Yay. All yay, basically. But finally, 10 minutes in, let's actually get into what we are talking about today on It's a Wonderful Podcast. The top 5, our personal top 5 lists of the movies we have covered so far. Nolan, I would like you to start with your number 5.
My number 5 is a really sweet little musical that I have fond memories about learning in music GCSE. And my wonderful music teacher, Miss Sinker, is just going to get another shout out for this. It's West Side Story.
Now, West Side Story was on my honourable mentions list, so yes, go ahead.
I mean, what else can I say about it? This is a really fun, well-crafted little musical from the 60s that I just adore. It's probably... I think studying it probably gave me a whole new appreciation for musicals at the time. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Spielberg does with it because the cast for that is shaping up really well. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few musicals I have seen on stage and one of the few that I've actually acted in. When I was living in Dubai, me and my friends, we used to do like little impromptu musicals and like put them on for our friends and stuff. And I was playing the role of Tony back when I could sing.
Can you not sing anymore?
No, the years of smoking have destroyed my voice.
Damn it, tobacco.
But I mean, it's just a really sweet little musical. It's got a lot of really great numbers in it. It's got a lot of really cool costumes, staged really well, and a really heartwarming story. I mean,
look, it really has. You say sweet little musical. I would say sweet huge musical.
True,
because it's quite a grand piece, and yeah, it is really enjoyable. The music is perfect, the choreography is perfect. Shot, I believe, in glorious Technicolor. Yeah, I remember doing that. It's quite early on that we did that, but it was our first musical that we ever did before the recent musical March, and yeah, West Side Story, great pick, great movie. And all round.
You guys do know that one of my main crushes is starring in the Spielberg version of this as Tony.
Not Ansel Elgort.
It is Ansel Elgort.
See, I knew it. I know you better than you think.
Whether it'll be as good as the '60s one, I don't know. But I mean, Spielberg, a great cast, and like Spielberg doing a musical, I'm gonna see it probably.
Oh yeah. It's one to keep an eye on that. I mean, Spielberg these days. What was honestly the last mind you liked Ready Player One, didn't you?
You know what? Until you brought it up, I completely forgot Ready Player One existed.
And
I own it on Blu-ray.
I haven't been truly excited for a Spielberg movie in a long time.
I'm like, I still think his version of War of the Worlds is pretty cool.
I remember seeing his version of War of the Worlds. It's definitely different to the one that we covered on this, the 50s one. It's a lot different, and it's also a lot different to the book. But Tom Cruise, you know my feelings generally towards Tom Cruise, and
it's a mission impossible to get you to watch a Tom Cruise film.
It's a mission improbable. It's not impossible. Speaking of that, actually, that's kind of a nice segue right now to take me on to talk for a little bit about the new little show that you are finding on this very podcast feed called Morgan Hasn't Seen, with
which I
myself.
have been enjoying.
Yeah, with myself and Janine the Machine, who it's great. I mean, it probably comes as no surprise to people who listen to this show. I tend to veer towards the older movies when it comes to my what I watch, and so this new show, which there are currently 3 episodes up of, we are halfway through our little opening series on the MCU in preparation for Endgame. For Avengers Endgame, I've been catching up with my missed MCU movies. Janine has been forcing me to watch them, and it's been fun.
I'm surprised that you liked Ed Norton's Hulk.
I really liked Ed Norton's Hulk. Well, I liked Ed Norton's Bruce Banner, and the Hulk itself can, you know.
Yeah,
As far,
and
as far,
the Abomination does look kind of weird.
Look, I believe I said it in that episode, and I don't know why we're talking about this now, but Ed Norton's Bruce Banner is what I want, and Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is what I want. Ed Norton's Hulk is bad,
Yeah.
and Mark Ruffalo's Banner isn't as good as Ed Norton's Banner, as far as I'm concerned. But that's beside the point. That show does exist, with you talking just about Mission Impossible to get me to watch Mission Impossible movies, or any Tom Cruise movies, that is. Perhaps that will come up on Morgan Hasn't Seen. Perhaps Janine will like to force me to watch some Tom Cruise movies. I don't know.
I'd
really
rather
all
use that show to get you to watch How to Train Your Dragon.
I mean, that's also, yeah, that's what it's about, though. It's about watching movies that I've missed, that are quite big movies, really, when you consider that a lot of the, 6 of the early MCU movies I completely missed. And, yeah, I've been catching up for them in preparation for Endgame. So that's that. It's perfectly easy for anybody listening to go and find that show, because it's right on this podcast feed. So wherever you listen to this show, you can listen to Morgan Hasn't Seen, and it's very fun. Me and Janine have a lot of fun doing that. But yes, your number 5 was West Side Story, and it's a good choice. I like that it got on there. It was my honourable mention. The music is so perfect. It's so many good songs. I remember also realising, or not realising, that some of the songs in West Side Story were actually from West Side Story. Like America, or...
I Feel Pretty.
I Feel Pretty. Never even knew those were in that movie. Never, knew they were from that musical. But they were. It's all great.
My favourite is Something's Coming. That's...
Yeah, I mean, I also like Maria. It's a ballad. It's a power love ballad, but it's good, and it's nice to sing.
And thank you to Miss Sinker for showing me that movie. You changed my life.
Definitely. My number 5 is going to take a serious turn from West Side Story.
Please don't tell me it's Carmen Jones.
No, it's not Carmen Jones. It's not a musical. It is one we did back in October for Horror Month. When we did Horror Month. It is The Innocents with Deborah Kerr.
God. The first movie we ever watched together as well.
That is true, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's very true. You were here when that happened. Oh, memories. Yeah, just a really well-crafted ghost story. So tense, so eerie. Deborah Kerr is an absolute powerhouse in this movie. And just the way everything's shot is just so smooth and so just shadowy and dark. You don't know where the camera... The whole scene, you can just have something little moving in the background and you notice it. Or something's over here and you're just on edge for the entire time. And obviously it's based on the Turn of the Screw, Henry James's Turn of the Screw. So, that is itself one of the most famous ghost stories of all time. And this is, it's pretty much the same thing. But the kids, I remember the kid actors in that are incredible.
Do you remember our reactions to watching the kid actors?
I do, but they were so good. They're some of the best child performances I've ever seen in that movie. And like I said, it all centres around Deborah Kerr's sort of nanny, or what do they call it? It's like a governess that they call who comes to the estate.
It's basically
home.
A nanny, but yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a ghost story. I don't want to give too much away. It's just a really impressively well done. It will keep you tense for its entire time. And
I should really revisit that.
You should. If nothing else, watch it for Deborah Kerr and for the beautiful cinematography and just the creepiness of it. It's a perfect ghost movie. It's a perfect Halloween movie, and it was, if I do say so myself, a perfect choice for horror month. It was, and it was a new watch for both of us back then, and yeah.
I
The
quite
Innocents,
enjoyed
number
horror
5.
month as a whole, but that was like the perfect way to start it off with.
What was your favourite month? Horror month, Western month, or musical March? Or
I mean,
animation month? Or animation month? Remember animation month? That was out
Yes.
first.
Well, animation month, we only had 2 movies that we really liked. Horror month,
Was that true? What
I
did
think
we do?
I think we liked Fantastic Planet and
Fantastic
Animal Farm.
Planet.
And
Did you not like Snow White?
I think
I
yeah,
liked
I think
Snow
actually
White.
yeah, I'll give Snow White that, but I just remember that for being the month I was roasting Peter Pan.
Yeah, that was. Oh yeah. No, Snow White's good. Fantastic Planet, great. To be honest, Fantastic Planet should be on my honourable mentions. It's not in my list. That's a little spoiler, but that was great. I like that. But yeah,
You know how I felt about Western month? I only liked like maybe one or
Yeah.
2 movies from it.
yeah, I know.
I'd say I probably enjoyed horror month the most because it felt the most consistent.
Okay.
Like I consistently loved each one, and even with musical March, there were some musicals in there that weren't really working for me.
Well, you also missed one of the episodes in Musical March, the
I
Willy
mean
Wonka
that
episode with
I'll
Brandon
spoil it
and
for
Janine.
you. That episode would have just been an hour of me going, "The book was better. The book was better. The book was better." So you didn't miss much.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Horror month on your top. The Innocents was a great episode, a great movie, and yeah, if you want to go back and listen to that, you will just hear me go, "Oh my god, this movie's great! Oh my god, yes!" For an
All
hour.
the movies we watched when I came to visit you were kind of horror based.
Well, they
I
were
mean,
because you came
every
right
movie.
smack. You came right smack bang when we were doing horror month, and
But even the movies we watched
Fortunate.
outside of it, like they were also horror-ish.
yes, that was also when Halloween 2018.
And I
Came
forced
out
you to
and we-
watch Edward Scissorhands, which
Yes,
it's not horror-y. It has horror elements, but
It's gothic-y. It's creepy enough to a point. But yeah, my number 5 is The Innocents. What is your number 4?
my number 4 is it's a movie, a good movie. It's my favorite Bond movie. It's From Russia with
Okay.
Love.
Wow, that is going far back.
Like I've stated on this before, I remember the first time we went on Fan Friction, and one of the questions we got was, "What's the best Bond movie?" And I stupidly answered Skyfall.
That was a long time ago. I believe I went with the safe answer of Goldfinger.
You did, and I think I would have had a more fighting chance with that if I had picked From Russia with Love. I picked Skyfall because like I thought I could get more of the audience on my side with that because they probably wouldn't have seen From Russia with Love, but then you just killed it with Goldfinger.
I'm evil.
Whilst I like Goldfinger a lot, it does veer a bit into the campy Bonds era for me, and From Russia with Love, it's sort of like, I think I compared it to like Winter Soldier. How that
Okay.
feels so much like a spy thriller. I mean, you have that intro scene with Red Grant, easily the best intro in a Bond film.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously you don't need me to tell you how much I love Robert Shaw, West Norton's own Robert Shaw. Love him.
And despite what my dad says, you'd be surprised, actually. I prefer Sean Connery out of my family when it comes to talking Bond. The rest of my family is on Pierce Brosnan's Bond movies.
Boo, Piers Brosnan.
I enjoy them for what they are, but for me, Connery he is the character Bond to me, and From Russia with Love has everything I love in Bond movies. Yep. Fun gadgets, great locations, great villains, and some really well shot fight scenes. And I mean, I can't go on enough about that opening scene, just establishing how much of a threat Red Grant's going to be.
Look, I absolutely do not disagree with you. I really like From Russia with Love. It is one of my favourite Bond films, definitely. And like you said, it probably has the best opening scene of any Bond movie, really, and definitely one of the more, or two, even two of the more memorable villains, with Klebb as well as Red Grant, and one of the few female villains as well, who is
I
just
mean,
great.
I was hoping they were going to get a female villain for the latest Bond film. I'm fine with Rami Malek being the villain, but I've always wanted Tilda Swinton as a Bond villain.
You have, but yeah,
Maybe
from Russia with Love.
I'll have to wait for like the 60th Bond reboot for that to happen.
I don't. Look, I don't know where the Bond franchise is right now. I know they're doing Bond 25, but I mean, where does it go? Is it still a viable property? I mean, we
with
say this,
Cary
the movies have
Fukunaga
been
directing it. I got pretty good hopes for the next one.
yeah. I say this, but the damn franchise has been going on since 1962. So
Let it die. I love James Bond. Murder him.
Look,
Kill him.
I don't disagree, but who am I to question the legs of a franchise that has already been going on since for nearly 60 years? I don't know. But From Russia with Love is a great movie, and that is a good choice for number 4. My number 4 is a Western, Nolan. It is a Western. It is not a Western that we did for Western Month, though.
If it was Rio Bravo, I'd be walking out of this room.
No, certainly not. Although I give credit to Rio Bravo for being well made, it's got some weird stuff in it that's not necessarily okay. High Noon.
I love that you went there, because that is my favourite Western that we've done. I almost wish it was part of Western Month, because I just love that movie so much.
We'd already done it by the time Western Month came along, which should show you how much I really like High Noon, that I picked this one I believe it was a choice of mine. I picked this one for the first Western we would ever do on this show. Certainly not the last. I will force you to watch more Westerns, and you can't stop me.
I know.
But High Noon is so good. It might be it's certainly my favourite American Western, and I say that obviously in contrast with a spaghetti Western, a European production Western. It's just such a tight film. It is such a perfect film. There's not a single moment of it that's wasted. It's 90 minutes of Gary Cooper just losing faith in the town of where he lives and just having to pull through on his own, do his own thing.
And despite it doing that, it doesn't become cynical at all.
It really doesn't. It is such a perfect representation of this sort of masculine independence, and obviously it is very much the opposite of Rio Bravo. In a lot of ways.
If it was any more masculine, there'd be dicks on the screen.
Look, it is a legitimate opposite of Rio Bravo, because as we found out, Rio Bravo was actually made to spite High Noon.
Another reason I don't like it.
Yeah, because High Noon was seen as this sort of by John Wayne and the people who produced Rio Bravo, it was seen as a very sort of un-American movie. Being that Gary Cooper simply asks the town for help when the I think he's called Frank, who is the villain, who is coming in on the train, and the train comes in at high noon. And the movie basically plays in real time, and it is for a movie that is essentially the marshal, the sheriff Will Kane, walking about the town, asking the townsfolk for help. He has been the sheriff there for so many years. He has, you understand that he is very well thought of in the town, that the people would be loyal to him, but they're not, and he is forced to deal with this situation on his own. And Grace Kelly's in there as well. She gives great little performance. and there's a Mexican actress in there who I forget the name of, but she's great as well.
Oh,
Oh my
I
god, I love
wonder if this
her.
is available on Blu-ray actually, because I should add that to my collection.
It certainly will be. But yeah, everything is, of course, centered around Gary Cooper's just. It's sort of a career-defining performance for Gary Cooper. Really, when you think of Gary Cooper movies, you immediately think of High Noon, and yeah, it is just such a well-paced movie. It's a really quick movie, but it's not in terms of action. It is just a fast-paced movie. It's brisk, and it tells the story it wants to tell so perfectly. Fred Zinnemann directed it, and 1952, yeah, and yeah, at the end as well, when Will Kane deals with the villain and throws down his sheriff's badge because he's just, and then he leaves obviously with Grace Kelly, who's his partner, because he has lost all faith in the town, and it is very much an individual story, where it is very much a story about the one man's journey and him dealing with his own sort of masculinity, and that he almost has to be ushered into asking the townsfolk for help. But once he does, he commits to doing that, but they just let him down, and then he brings it in himself to deal with the situation put in front of him on his own, because that's what he has to do. And yeah, he leaves town at the end. He's lost all faith, and he's just such a perfect western in my eyes. It had to go on this list. With the way I'm talking about it, you might be surprised it's not a little higher, but it's at number 4, and I love High Noon. It's great.
I love it too. It is also great. However, my number 3, you did not think was so great.
Oh, okay, it certainly won't be on my list then.
I'm gonna. This was like a really weird anomaly for us, considering our rules for talking about movies. It's Watership Down.
Do we have rules? Watership Down. Do we have rules? I like that you think we have rules.
I mean, the selection of me choosing this movie was like the weirdest train of thought ever.
Well, I suppose, do
you remember how I picked this?
I have no idea. I think you just wanted to maybe upset me one week, and the fact it's from 1978 as well, so it's definitely the most recent movie we've ever covered.
Yeah, my whole train of thought around picking this was that was the week I think Jake Gyllenhaal got cast as Mysterio. Then I was on a Jake Gyllenhaal run. I watched Donnie Darko, and in Donnie Darko there is a whole subplot around Watership Down. And then there was this Ryan Hollinger video, who's another video essayist I like, who talked about the themes of Watership Down, and I thought, this would be a really interesting movie to talk about. I hope I can talk about it on the show. And it was also kind of payback for Witchfinder General.
Of course. Of course. Witchfinder General, which also didn't make it onto my list. A very good movie, but a very grim, nasty movie. Don't watch it if you've got a weak stomach like Nolan has. He can't deal with Witchfinder General because there's way too much burning and cutting people open, and Vincent Price being nasty.
But in Watership Down, there's, it's essentially a war story, but told through the eyes of rabbits.
It is. It's such a smart story.
And it's fucking... it's horrifying. There are some images in it that I think would give kids nightmares.
Have done for decades now. Have done since it came out, since the book was published. Probably it's been giving children nightmares. But yeah, go into why you like Watership Down so much.
I really like Watership Down because at its heart it is kind of a kid story about hope, but it's not handling its message with kid gloves. Definitely not. Like it's showing them these kind of grim realities of war, and I just think it's very creatively done, and there's sort of this uneasy aura to it that just, I mean, you know it when you watch it, but I describe this movie kind of like a car crash. It's grim, it's awful, people are dying, but you can't seem to turn away from looking at it.
Okay.
And I mean that in the best possible way, and I've recently seen the Netflix readaptation of Watership Down.
Yeah. Is that not good?
Which I might as well call it watered down. That's all.
Oh, really? Is it nowhere near as grim?
It's they've taken all the edge stuff out of it.
Oh, what's the point then? It's not really Watership Down, is it? It's just a story about rabbits and escaping from somewhere.
Yeah,
trying
and
to
the
find a new
animation's not
home.
great. And what a shame, they wasted such a really good cast.
Who was in that? I don't even know.
I know
saw it
John
pop up on
Boyega
Netflix.
and James McAvoy were in it.
Okay.
I think Ian McKellen might have been in it too, but I'm not sure.
Of course he was. Of course Ian McKellen turns up in something like that. But yeah, Watership Down needs to be grim. It needs to be kind of chilling. I mean, you look at the animation in this version is sort of adds to it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the whole fields of blood and once they get to the camp and it's just all nasty.
It's the same way I would describe someone if, like, say you knew someone who liked fairy tales and then you showed them like Pan's Labyrinth.
Or you showed them the actual original versions of those fairy tales.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. And Richard Adams, who wrote the book, he says, like, there's no real audience for this book, it's just anyone who wants to read it. And you can't really promote books like that anymore, so it kind of represents this era that I kind of miss.
Well, that's fair enough completely. I like that. I do enjoy the movie as much as someone can enjoy a movie like that. But it is grim. It is depressing. It is just sad. It is just sad. And General Woundwort is...
there's that one scene where he's all bloody and kind of like looks feral. That's the nightmare image.
It is, where he's jumping and diving on the sort of protagonist rabbit, who I honestly forget the name of. But yeah, it's a good choice. I like that choice, Nolan. Didn't make any of my list, even nothing my honourables.
I'm not surprised.
As you probably expected. My number 3 is one we did quite recently, just before we started on the kick of musicals, Imitation of Life.
Ah, yes.
Which was the sort of race drama, the female-led race drama with, I think it was Lana Turner and Juanita Moore. And I just loved this movie so much. It was just such a well-told story. I think it may be, as far as movies that I have discovered through the show, this may be my favourite.
It's
single
really
favourite.
Great. I remember I watched both versions of it because I watched the wrong version accidentally before we recorded.
Yeah, I am talking about the I think it was from 1959, I think the one we did. Definitely the 50s, but yeah, I really just like this movie so much. All centered around this this woman who takes in this African American woman as her sort of housekeeper, and she brings along her white daughter, and the daughter basically is refusing to accept that she is mixed race.
Yeah.
Completely refusing to accept it, and she just wants to be thought of as white. She does everything to just be white, and it's about sort of embracing who, or the message it tries to say, or the message it does convey, is one of, you know, embracing who you are inside. It doesn't, and that it doesn't matter and it's said as much in the film because they become a family. They become a true family. And Lana Turner, I remember saying, because it's sort of in this, in two parts of when the daughters were kids, because Lana Turner has a daughter herself, when the daughters were kids, and then when the daughter's like 18 or 16. But when they're kids, it's kind of, it's not as impactful. It's not as sort of emotional. It's just introducing you to everything. The way everything's presented is sort of laid out earlier on. But then when they get to like 16 and the daughter of Juanita Moore, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on everybody's characters' names. But
I'm so surprised a movie like that got made at that time.
Look, it's a really bold movie. I know it's different to the one from the 30s, in quite a big way. But it is a really bold movie. It's a really clever movie. It's a really well crafted story, and it's just message of, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter who you are. You are family. We love you. Stop trying to rebel. You have nothing to rebel against. And I think that's like a line. I might be sort of paraphrasing a bit, but it is sort of like, what are you rebelling against? We love you. Because the one daughter is like, how can I be a I'm all rebellious, late 50s, 60-year-old girl. And it's just like, why?
Yeah, you don't have to be James Dean. We love you.
But she comes to when she realizes that actually, yeah, I don't have a reason to rebel, and then the ending is tragic. Oh my god, it's so tragic. But like I say, it's just a really well crafted story. It's a really impactful movie, a bold movie, one that I feel like isn't mentioned at all when you think of
be
its era, but it really should be. I hope that I can make people go and check it out, because I believe more and more people should check this out, because it's just a really good movie. Everybody in it's great. The direction's great, and like I said, the storytelling is perfectly done. It's a little, as if I can remember, it's a little long, but this is because it's in this sort of two-part structure. But it's paced very well, and it will leave you thinking about it for days, like it left me, definitely.
I'll be honest with you. When we first started the show, I was a little bit worried that we were going to come across movies like that tackled like racial themes and like LGBTQ themes and things like that, and it wasn't going to do it in like a really good way, and we'd kind of be left like saying, what do we say about this? Do we just say it's because of the time? But then this comes along and it's of that time, it's of that era, but it's still like really good. Yeah. And surprisingly very progressive for its era.
Look, I mean, look at Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which has made my honourable mentions. I mean, that's 1967.
Mentions.
That's from 1967, so it's a lot later than Imitation of Life, but it tackles the same sort of thing. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, we're all human beings, we're all one. You should just focus on love, and that's what Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is about. Also, you have, to a lesser extent, about race, but with To Sir With Love, with Sidney Poitier as well, that we also did. That's got its racial elements in it, definitely, and it tackles them very, very well and very, very smartly in a bit of a different setting, because that one is set in Britain, whereas these are very much American. But I think all the race dramas we've done, and I believe it's only those three, have been very smartly done. I don't think we've picked a nasty one, and I hope we don't pick a nasty one.
Spoiler alert for the show, I hope we don't ever do Birth of a Nation on this show.
Certainly not. I mean, what do you think I am? You think I'm gonna come out? I don't care. This is a show. I've always said this. This is a show about positivity. It's a show about celebration, and a movie such as that, or anything like that, anything that will paint anyone in a bad light, whether it's to do with race or to do with gender or sexual orientation or whatever it is, I will not watch for this show. It will not be on this show. Good. Because Birth of a Nation is a movie that the Ku Klux Klan watch and enjoy, Nolan. I'm not having that.
It's total garbage as well.
I'm not having that on the show. I'm not. And I know you're not saying that we're going to have it.
No, we are never doing that movie because it's total trash.
I know you were just bringing it up as an example, but do not fear anyone. Something like that would never come.
That's what I was worried that a lot of these racial films from pre-1960 would be like. Thankfully, I was proven wrong.
Hell, people were smart. People were clever. They knew how to do it well. An imitation of life is exactly that. But yes, what is your number 2?
It's from way back when we first started out. It's got skeletons. It's got Greek mythology. It's Jason and the Argonauts.
Yes. I'm so glad you're talking about this. Honourable mention. I'm so glad you're talking about this. Go ahead.
I mean, at that time, I was reading the Percy Jackson books, and I was, like, getting really into my Greek mythology and finding out everything I could. And one thing they always mention in those books is that they're big fans of Jason and the Argonauts. So I watched this movie and just kind of fell in love with it. It's so creative. It's so fun. The Ray Harryhausen effects. I think that's the guy who did it. Who did all the skeleton effects. Such great sequences. It doesn't tackle like a lot of big themes like some of our other stuff does, but it's just like a really fun sword and sorcery mythological adventure, and it's something you could put on like on a Saturday night and just like grab your popcorn and have fun with.
Anything. It's pure so entertainment. Good. It is pure entertainment. It is pure fun. It is just so enjoyable. And
the precursor to Clash of the Titans, I believe.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, Clash of Titans came out in 81, I think, and Jason and the Argonauts was like 63. So it's really, really kind of early. It's in a sort of bit of a boom of sword and sandal movies, yeah, sure. With Spartacus and whatever else, other Roman movies and Greek movies.
But whereas like Spartacus is more of like an epic, more Lord of the Ringsy feel kind of thing, Jason and the Argonauts is just like pure popcorn fun.
It really is. Like you said, simple story, but one that is just all out enjoyable. That is exactly the kind of movie of positivity and celebration that we like on It's a Wonderful Podcast. Good choice, Nolan.
Mm-hmm. So what did you pick for your second choice?
Another silly movie.
Here we go.
Very recently covered. Nolan, you were not here. It's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Son of a bitch.
It's the best. It's such a good movie.
I won't disagree that it's a good movie. I just think it's a poor adaptation.
I don't care about adaptation. Also makes it... the reason I love this movie more is that I got to watch it with the two fine people that were on the episode, and that was fun. It is just joyful. It is creepy. Gene Wilder is perfection. The songs I could sing for days and weeks. I want a bean feast. Nolan, what is a bean feast? Nobody knows, and it's weird.
I will give it this. I do love Pure Imagination. That is a great little song. It's one of the first I learned when I was in like choir class and everything.
Okay.
But the way I feel about this is I feel that they changed the character of Willy Wonka to suit Gene Wilder more so than getting an actor that would fit Willy Wonka. And I'm not even a big fan of Depp's Willy Wonka either. As far as I've seen it, we haven't had like a Willy Wonka that's like the definitive character from the books yet.
Look, I've read the book as well. Gene Wilder's better than Book Wonka. Gene Wilder is a more enjoyable Wonka than Book Wonka.
I just don't buy that Willy Wonka
nice.
would get angry. I wouldn't buy that he gets angry because
he doesn't get angry though, does he? He doesn't get angry in the sense that he's actually angry. He's just weird. He's just wacky and crazy. And he's this guy that's lived in a factory with a bunch of Oompa Loompas for his entire life, Nolan. He's going to be weird. You have to accept that he's going to be weird. It's a perfect movie.
I think it's good. I'll give it that. It is good.
Nolan, it's a perfect movie. Yeah, I cannot love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory anymore. You might be thinking, well, what the hell is your number one then? But my number one is fairly obvious, I think, to people that pay attention. But Willy Wonka is just so good, and it was so fun having. It was a real shame you couldn't be there to be the contrarian argument in terms of, because that would have made for a good discussion. It would have made for a great discussion.
I don't hate it. Like it's not like
I know that. But yeah, doing that episode with Brandon and Janine was so much fun, and the movie itself is so much fun. It's filled with those little throwaway lines that we always like to bring up that are just hilarious. Just the tiny little details that are just genius and that keeps you wanting to watch it again and again and again and again, and that is exactly the kind of movie I love.
I like both film versions of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But
look,
neither of them have lived up to Roald Dahl's book for me. That's just a personal thing.
Of course it is, and this is very much a personal thing as well. I don't dislike Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's just nowhere near as good as Willy Wonka.
I really don't like Depp's Wonka. It's way too Michael Jackson-y.
And we know we don't bring up Michael Jackson these days.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're on to our number ones, and I'm sure these will come with a lot of love. Nolan, do you know what I like as well?
What?
We've not had one the same.
I don't think we're going to have one the same for the final either.
Neither do I.
I just want you to answer me something. Who is a boy's best friend?
His mother.
My favorite movie that we've ever covered. It contains my favorite villain performance of all time. It's Psycho.
I mean, it's an understandable choice.
I cannot get enough of that movie. It's just so perfect. And this is another thing that proves a lot of people give me shit for being the book is better guy. Psycho is one of those cases where I think the movie is far superior to the book. Because the book of Psycho, I told you about it before, it's just strange and way too grim and upsetting, whereas the movie is more of like a tragedy, and it's way more interesting. The performance of Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates is just heartbreaking. Everyone's gone on about the shower scene, but I'll mention it again. It's just great filmmaking.
You have to mention it. You don't need to go into detail. Just mention it. It's there.
It's great.
Everybody loves it.
I will mention a scene that not a lot of people bring up, and it's when Norman Bates is talking to Janet Leigh in the room with the birds, and you just see this sort of creepy kind of like monologue he does. That's the monologue I auditioned for my school play with, and I do love the other stuff, like the reveal that he's actually Mother, the final shot of him just smiling, and the bird's eye view thing with the death of the detective is just it's pure genius.
Look,
I don't know if it started the slasher genre, because Peeping Tom came out before it, but it definitely helped pioneer it.
Peeping Tom was the same year, so I don't know. Yeah, Peeping Tom was the same year, so I don't know which actually came first, but I guess 1960 was the year the slasher started.
And
Yeah,
without
I mean,
that, you won't have movies like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, Scream, all these great slashers. They're all thanks to Psycho.
now I'm just questioning whether it's a true slasher. Because I know people like to throw in Black Christmas from 1974 as the first real slasher.
Oh, that movie's so upsetting.
It's a good movie. It's a very
good,
movie.
but like I wanted to take a shower after watching.
That is Black Christmas is the first. It's the first slasher as we view slashers, but really you're going back to 1960 with this and with Peeping Tom, and you talk about a perfect movie. It is. There's no question about it. The only reason it's not on my list is because this was a list of favourites and not
you knew
best.
I was going to pick it.
I knew you would. I also did know you would pick it, but a list of top 5 best movies we've covered and top 5 favourite movies we've covered is quite different.
Yeah, because one's made by Rotten Tomatoes and one's made by us.
Yeah. But yeah, Psycho, you can't say anything else about Psycho. It is just exceptional all round. One of Hitchcock's best, if not necessarily my favourite of Hitchcock's. I actually prefer, in terms of favourite, about maybe 4 of his movies to Psycho, but it doesn't discredit Psycho, considering Hitchcock is one of history's great filmmakers. And
one more thing I should mention about it, Nerdwriter did this really great video on how some films work better when they're packaged together to sort of complement each other and everything, and that's down to opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
The opening credits of Psycho are pure genius.
Yeah, Saul Bass graphic design. Did Saul Bass do the art for Imitation of Life?
Might have done, and I do believe the way the score is used in Psycho, I think, went on to influence how my favorite movie of all time was made, Jaws. Whenever that thing from Psycho comes on, you know something bad's happening, and it's just like when you hear the theme from Jaws, you know the shark's there.
Yeah. I mean, you can go on about the screechy violins of the shower scene all you want, but the actual theme of Psycho is my favourite piece of music in that whole movie. It is so good. It is so tense. It is just There's nothing else you can say about Psycho. It has been said so many times. Everybody loves it. It is a worthwhile number 1 on your list. It just makes all the sense in the world.
And now I gotta know what your number 1 is, and I'm picturing what it is.
Probably guess, can't you? It is a movie that not only I just love flat out, not only that is just fun, it's enjoyable. It keeps me, it sticks in my head for days and weeks afterwards, or at least one element of it does. But it is also a movie that means a great deal to me personally.
I know what it is.
Is Oliver, the musical from 1968.
Which I was so surprised that I preferred Oliver as an adaptation of Oliver Twist than the 40s version.
Well, the 40s version is racist, Nolan.
Yes, we already went on that whole thing about Fagin.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I said before, we would never do a racist movie on the show. Well, okay, maybe we did.
But when we do, we will mention that it is, and you should take
very,
that
very racist. Alec Guinness is given a whole new... It's just given a whole new light to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And who else? Who else did Alec Guinness play? Jacob Marley in Scrooge.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to go either Oliver, Scrooged, or Vertigo, so it was one of those 3.
Well, Vertigo was the first episode we ever did. A great movie, a Hitchcock movie that I do admittedly prefer to Psycho.
But you prefer
Scrooge.
Oliver to all of them.
Scrooge from 1970, the musical as well, I also absolutely love. But I don't think it's as good a movie as Oliver. And it also doesn't mean quite as much to me as Oliver does. I've told the story on the episode. I will tell it again now. This was the movie, really, that me and my great-granddad used to watch all the time before he passed away. He was a formative human being in my life, and as long as I love this movie, he will not be forgotten in the world, and I love that. So,
That's lovely.
Yeah, I love this movie so much. I sing it all the time.
Even when I haven't,
Even when I haven't watched it for ages, I will just say, I've got "Consider Yourself" in my head. Why do I have "Consider Yourself" in my head? Consider yourself at home, and I'll just do that.
it's the best adaptation of Oliver Twist. I can't lie.
It's a great movie. It does mean so much to me. It is the only movie that could possibly go at number one for me. It was very easy to put that one in. It was less easy to put the rest of them.
I do love that both of our number ones have villains that I love in them. Oliver has Bill Sikes and Psycho has Norman Bates.
Yeah, Bill's everything about Oliver. Ron Moody as Fagin. Perfect. Not racist. Which is very important when it comes to Fagin, that he's not. Watch the ones where he isn't racist. Even though the 40s one with Alec Guinness as Fagin, it's a good movie, but the portrayal's just very
ridiculous.
off.
It's very off.
And Ron Moody's great. Oliver Reed, who is a renowned drunk, is great. As Bill Sikes, he's very intimidating. Shani Wallace as Nancy. Mark Lester, he's not a good actor as Oliver. He's not. He's quite poor, really. But he also can't sing, which meant he had to be dubbed over by the director's daughter, director Sir Carol Reed. Great director. Uncle to Oliver Reed, which is the only reason Oliver Reed actually got the part. But it's a great movie. And I will always say this, and people will argue against me, because they think it is one of the most undeserving Best Picture winners of all time. Screw you all. It fully deserved Best Picture in 1968, or for 1968, I should say. Ceremony in the start of 1969. Ahead of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I like it. But this is the fun movie. 2001 is a difficult movie to watch.
I haven't even seen 2001 all the way through.
To actually think about it. Yeah, you've got to be.
I tried watching it in high school, and for the first hour I was like, am I watching a fucking nature documentary?
I've seen it twice. I believe the first time I saw it was when I was studying film. I was in a film class, so I was really sort of in tune with it all, and felt like, I know what I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch a piece of cinema tonight. And put 2001 on.
I'm going to decorate my room with my Pulp Fiction posters.
Yeah, that sort of vibe. I had a Goodfellas poster. Goodfellas, great movie, but all the cliches were there.
2001's stereotypical film fan past.
For a little while, for maybe a couple of months, I was, but then I came to my senses and realised I just love Vincent Price and Oliver, and I'm happy about that. So yeah, Oliver, my number one, the only one that could be my number one.
Yep, and there was one honourable mention that none of us did mention.
Okay.
But I felt like I should get it in there because this actor had a huge impact on me. Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah, fair enough.
James Dean, it's like easily one of the most popular movie stars of the classic era. Had a huge influence on me fashion-wise. I've read some stuff that said he was an LGBT actor as well. I'm not too sure about it, but if that exists, all the more power to him.
you can read a lot of stuff that suggest many Golden Age Hollywood stars were not heterosexual, shall we say. And I am all about it.
I mean, James Dean was very handsome, so
Certainly was.
more power to me.
Certainly was, but yeah, a worthy honourable mention. Some more on my honourable mentions include Rebecca, which I really liked. That was great.
That was almost on my list.
Another Hitchcock one that I kind of prefer to Psycho in terms of a favourite. West Side Story, like we said, Scrooge. The Adventures of Robin Hood.
I really wanted to mention that too, but I like those that are 5. If we're doing a top 10, that would have been there.
Yeah.
You know how much I love Errol Flynn.
And Bringing Up Baby,
Another
best
one I almost had on
Cary
the list.
Grant, Katharine Hepburn, funniest, silliest, stupidest screwball comedy you will ever watch. No, and we've done it. That's a top 5 list. That was so fun. It was
Before we get into the questions, do you want to know where we'll be heading next week?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Well, I've been playing a certain video game for the last 2 days. I've been playing a little game called Kingdom Hearts.
Which I am now aware is a Disney property.
Yeah, it's basically, it's like Disney meets Final Fantasy. It's really fun to play, but...
So you've decided we are doing a Final Fantasy movie. Are
No.
they even movies? I don't know. I don't know anything about anything this side of 1990.
No, but one of the levels, you get to go into Wonderland. And that's what we're doing.
Yes!
Because...
I don't want to shout too loudly, so I'm going to do that reserve shouting thing. Yes!
Yep, my next pick is Alice in Wonderland.
I adore Alice in Wonderland. It might be my single favourite Disney movie. Oh, I'm excited now. This is wonderful.
I'm glad to talk about one Disney adaptation where I won't be moaning about how the book was better.
I remember reading Alice in Wonderland a long time ago. It's only really short, isn't it? But
Yeah, you can read it in like an hour tops.
an hour? I'm not so sure about that. I'm a slow reader. I like to act out speech.
Ah, I see.
So
I'm sure your Cheshire Cat is very good.
I'm one of those. Yeah, very good. I'm one of those kind of readers. I am hugely looking forward to that, and that is going to be great. That will be episode 51 of It's a Wonderful Podcast. But episode 50, this weird, special, unique episode, isn't quite over yet. We have, as promised, a few questions to answer, and I'm getting them up now.
Do we have any silly ones? I haven't actually seen what the questions are yet.
We have one or two silly ones, I believe, one or two slightly silly ones. So yeah, let's ask the questions. Tom Zambino, who we love and is great, asks, what is your favourite Ed Wood movie? Have you ever seen an Ed Wood movie? Is your favourite Ed Wood movie actually Ed Wood?
I mean, I love Ed Wood. I do love that movie. It's not my favourite Burton movie, but it's easily one of his best. In terms of Ed Wood's films, I've only ever seen clips from them. Like, I've never seen a whole one.
I have actually never seen a full Ed Wood movie, so I'm going to say the one that is shown in the movie Ed Wood, where Bela Lugosi fights that octopus.
I think that's Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Is it?
I could be wrong.
I mean, that's his most famous one. I don't know if that's Plan 9 from Outer Space, though. If it is, I'm going to say that. But if
what
it
is
isn't...
There's something I've noticed. What is it with Tim Burton and characters named Ed? Does he just love the name Edward? Or
I guess so. I guess he does. I guess he does. And Johnny Depp plays them all. But yeah, honestly, my favourite Ed Wood movie is actually the movie Ed Wood, which isn't an Ed Wood.
Edward. Jesus Christ.
Which isn't an Ed Wood movie, but is about him. So I class that, but yeah, I'm going to say the one where Bela Lugosi fights an octopus, whatever that one is.
And,
Just because I like that
Martin
scene in Ed Wood.
Lando's pretty good as Bela Lugosi.
Perfect.
And the only thing I knew him for was, I mean, you're gonna laugh at this. He was the voice of the Scorpion on the '90s Spider-Man cartoon.
He is in North by Northwest, another one of Hitchcock's that I'm not actually sure if I do prefer to Psycho. Maybe I prefer Psycho to North by Northwest. But Martin Landau is in that. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Do you not have an answer, or are you going to say Ed Wood as well?
I haven't seen any Ed Wood movies, so I'll have to, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Kimber Bennis, who we all love as well, actually asks the question that we've already answered on this show, which was, what is your favourite movie that you have covered so far? So I'm going to change that a little bit to, what do you think is the actual best movie we've covered so far?
Ooh, in terms of highest acclaimed, oh man.
In terms of best acclaimed, Vertigo is in with a shout.
I'd probably have to go with Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is a great shout. Psycho's in with a shout of best movie.
One that I didn't get to mention that Kimber was in fact on. I do love Follow the House of Usher.
A wonderful movie. I'm not sure if it's quite got the that for me is more on my sort of favourites rather than best. I'm going to say one of the Hitchcocks. I'm going to say, honestly, probably Vertigo, and that is obviously our first movie we ever did. I actually think it might be the single best movie we have ever covered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Billy Polahan, who we also love.
Jesus.
We
What's he asked? What's he asked?
Look, this is actually a nice question. He also asks. He also does ask a silly question. This question
is it a punny question.
No, it isn't actually. This question is, what's a classic movie that resonates with you? That really resonates with you?
I mean, you already said yours and your number one, Oliver.
Well, Oliver certainly resonates with me. More like we said in the episode, Imitation of Life very much resonates with me. A new one that I discovered, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, does as well.
Mm-hmm. I would say Rebel Without a Cause really resonates with me.
Yeah, I guess we're just reiterating the ones we've kind of already talked about, but I guess there's a reason we've done them on the show. And
there is one that's that we haven't covered that I'm hoping we do get to cover at some point. I've been working my way up to try to ask you if we can cover this, but
well, do you not want to do it now? Do you not want to just ask me now?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, what's this?
I really want us to cover Jaws for Shark Week. But look, it's a 75 movie.
We've done 70s movies before. I would not say no to doing Jaws. I mean,
it is my favourite movie of all time. It resonates with me a lot, that whole facing your fears kind of thing, and it was the movie that made me love movies.
Look, Jaws is another kind of perfect movie. I'm up for doing Jaws at some point, by all means. By all means, we could do Jaws at some point. Billy also asks, do you know the Muffin Man?
Jesus Christ.
To which I respond, no, but the Gingerbread Man does.
He lives on Drury Lane, yeah.
He lives on Drury Lane, and she was married to the Muffin Man. Did you know that as well?
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man! She was married to the Muffin Man.
I actually do know a Muffin Man. There's one that lives on my street.
I do know a Muffin Man.
I
like muffins.
The red muffins, I'll take them over cupcakes any day.
Look, I like muffins. Muffins are great. Muffins are tasty.
Best kind of muffin.
In all their forms. Honestly, all their forms. A nice blueberry muffin.
A blueberry muffin, a banana muffin, an English muffin if you want to go savoury.
Maybe not a banana muffin. Blueberry muffin's fine though. Yeah. I can't really eat chocolate muffins anymore.
I don't even like them. They're too sickly.
I like muffins. Brandon Hanna, who we also love, or who at least I love, who
kidnapping bastard.
Yeah, pretty much. Asks two questions. He asks one, which is a joke to the latest episode of Morgan Hasn't Seen, where we talk about Iron Man 2. He asks, "Where is my bird? I want my bird."
I haven't listened to the Iron Man 2 episode yet, but I'm going to assume you thought Mickey Rourke was really delightful and silly.
I thought Mickey Rourke was terrible in Iron Man 2, to be perfectly honest with you.
To be honest with you, he hates that movie as well.
Good. I don't mind Mickey Rourke. He's good in Sin City.
I thought you were going to like how ridiculous he was.
No. Go ahead. People, go and listen to Morgan Hasn't Seen. You can find all my thoughts on these MCU movies.
Guessing you probably loved Sam Rockwell, though.
I loved Sam Rockwell. Yes, loved Sam Rockwell. He also asks, Brandon does, would you rather your life be a rom-com or a musical? And he guessed it would be a musical. I think he was talking about me, and that is true.
I mean, I am one of those people who walk down the road with my headphones pretending I'm in a musical. Yeah,
I think if people's life was an actual rom-com, it reminds me of that Netflix movie that's just out. Isn't it Romantic with Rebel Wilson? Which I haven't seen, but I've seen pop up on my Netflix. She gets thrown into a rom-com. Basically, her life gets thrown into a rom-com. I wouldn't like that. There'd be way too much drama all the time.
Oh, they start the movie as friends, then in the middle of the movie they're not friends, and by the end of the movie they're friends again.
Yeah, just be friends, guys. Just constant. What's wrong with that? I don't know. Yeah, musical though. I like songs. I would happily have a recurring theme. I would happily break into song. And, yeah, pretty much.
I know musical too.
You would go with musical too. What I believe there is one more question that we have to answer just now, and it is from my co-host of Morgan Hasn't Seen. It is from Janine the Machine, and she asks, what's a classic movie you've recently discovered and really enjoyed? And I'm going to try and think of one that isn't Imitation of Life.
Yeah, I can't go. Probably To Start With Love for me.
I mean, it's a good movie. It's a very good movie.
A lot of themes I resonate with. Seems like a kind of story I would write. I loved how it reminded me of Dead Poet Society a bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, I don't watch a lot of movies that aren't for the show. I honestly don't. I guess I've kind of answered this question with Imitation of Life. To Sue With Love as well, kind of did. But a new one that really resonated with me, that's an older one. I don't know. I just have Imitation of Life shouting at me in my own head. And I'm just going to lead this to dead air if I carry on trying to think. So I'm just going to say that and annoy everyone. Have we even answered those questions properly? I feel like we haven't answered any of those questions properly at all. But there you have it. There you have it, guys. Nolan, have you enjoyed this different and unique and slightly ridiculous episode 50 of It's a Wonderful Podcast?
I know a classic movie that resonates with you.
With me?
Yeah, Shrek.
Shrek certainly does resonate with me, and a true classic it is as well.
But yes, I have enjoyed this. This was really fun. I'm glad I didn't have to go hunting for a movie this week, because sometimes I have trouble with finding them. Paint Your Wagon I had loads of trouble trying to find.
Well, I'm sure it will be fine for next week when, as you said, for episode 51, when we are covering Alice in Wonderland, Disney's Alice in Wonderland, which I love, you probably love, because you've picked it, and I'm sure it will be a delightful episode.
It will be. I will not be roasting this like I did Peter Pan.
Good. Nolan, where can everybody find you? What are you up to that isn't talking to fellow LGBTQ authors?
What am I up to that's not talking to LGBT? I mean, that's most of my schedule.
I'm just trying to figure out. No, I've got that penciled in every day.
No, but I am working on more stories as lessons. I've got one up on Big because Shazam's coming out, which is great, by the way.
Yes, you saw Shazam. I will have seen it by the time this airs, so I'm just gonna say this: probably liked it, but admittedly probably thought it was a little silly. But that's okay.
It's big with Superman. Of course, it's gonna be silly.
I mean, I like exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it. More than like it, really. But yeah, you will know that by the time this comes out. Anyway, but that's come out. The tickets came out for Avengers Endgame,
which I kind of, I honestly feel bad because everyone in the States is going mental about not getting tickets, and I went on my Odeon app and just booked it, no problem.
Look, I did the same thing, right? I'm seeing it because I didn't even realise as well. I thought, because I know that the UK usually gets the MCU movies a couple of days early. I didn't realise it was also going to be the same for this one. I am seeing this movie on Thursday, the April 25th, during the day. Not like the US would have to do if they wanted to see it on Thursday. They would have to go to one of the late night ones, the late night preview.
I almost booked for the Wednesday midnight one, but it's 3 hours long. Do I really want to be doing that?
No, you don't want to be doing that. But yeah, people in LA were losing their minds, and it
was like Comic-Con registration.
It is. It's ridiculous. I mean, the main box office hypothetical questions that are coming out is: does this movie make $300 million in the US on its opening weekend? And does this movie cross $1 billion worldwide on its opening weekend?
I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Look, neither would I. It would be ridiculous, but I would not be surprised if it did. Also, does it beat Avatar overall? Now, Avatar is $2.7 billion.
I think it's very possible, but I wouldn't bet on it.
$2.7 billion. I believe The Force Awakens is maybe $2.3 billion. Does Avengers Endgame, I mean, the amount of screens this is playing on, it is literally playing in every cinema screen in the world, probably, at the same time.
Basically, avoid your social media until you see it.
Definitely. And also, do that with Game of Thrones. Just do that with Game of Thrones if you want my advice. Do not go on your social media until you have seen that week's episode of Game of Thrones, because we have that not a week away, or just over a week away.
Did you see when Maisie Williams pretended to leak a spoiler for Game of Thrones?
No, because I have pretty much... Well, I haven't officially muted all of Game of Thrones from my social media, but I don't pay attention to anything.
She was on Fallon and she pretended to leak a spoiler, and she looked so shocked. And then her and Fallon come out and say April Fools.
Oh no, that was the most awful thing. I think I may be sick if I watch that, so I'm not going to watch that. But yeah, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones just over a week away.
And something
Madness.
I'd be stupid if I didn't mention, but remember when Spider-Verse was announced and everyone just roasted the idea of it happening? Then it came out and was a game changer?
Yes.
Is Joker gonna do the same thing?
Yes. That Joker trailer was outstanding.
I can't believe
my
a movie
God.
like that exists.
It's the king of comedy, but with the Joker. And I love the king of comedy, one of Martin Scorsese's most underrated movies. It is that and isn't De Niro in the movie? Isn't De Niro in host. Joker? And De Niro obviously is the king of comedy in Scorsese's movie. It is the same thing, but it's just take what Rupert in The King of Comedy did, but just make him go absolutely crazy, and it's this movie.
I mean, that entire trailer was better than all of Jared Leto's performance.
Yes, it was. There is no denying that. Oh my God, I am so looking forward to Joker. There's a lot to look forward to. It's a lot to look forward to.
Joker standalone movie starring Joaquin Phoenix exists.
It's madness. Look, it's madness. I cannot wait to see it. But, yes, guys, that was episode 50 of It's a Wonderful Podcast. You can find me on the social medias at the Purple Don with a 3 instead of the E in the, because 3 is the magic number, and that is on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram just at the Purple Don with no numbers, because Instagram likes me and Twitter doesn't. Fumbled my words a bit there, but I'm going to power through. Nolan, like I always do. Where can people find you?
They can find me at NolanDean27, where now you may have noticed that you're getting pictures of the stuff that I'm cooking, because fuck it, I just want to ship those. After this, I'm gonna go and see Pet Sematary and pray to God that it isn't trash.
Is it supposed to be great though, isn't it? I've heard very good things.
I've heard mixed things, and they did a thing in it that I wasn't so sure I'll be on board with, but we'll see.
I actually haven't heard any of the negative things. I haven't heard a lot, admittedly, but I have heard very positive things. And if it comes back, obviously, that it is very good, I will probably go and see it myself too.
You haven't seen the trailers, have you?
No, I don't really watch.
Okay, good. Then I won't
say
the
trailers.
Thing they changed then.
I don't watch a lot of trailers. I had to watch the Joker one. Still not seen a trailer for Endgame, and I'm very happy about that.
And I was also very happy that Funko have released not one, but 2 Mysterio figures.
I'm sure you'll be getting them both, won't you?
I'm torn on which one to get. Do I get the unmasked one because Jake Gyllenhaal, or the fishbowl because comic book fan?
Well, he doesn't actually look like Jake Gyllenhaal. He looks like a Funko version of Jake Gyllenhaal, which is inaccurate. So get the fishbowl if you want my advice.
Fair enough.
Yeah. What am I up to?
Check out my thing with AJ.
Check out that. What am I up to? I'm up to this show. Just check out this show. Check out Morgan Hasn't Seen on this very feed. It's a lot of fun. And
I can't wait for you to see Iron Man 3.
Yeah, me neither. And we hope to bring you more stuff soon. Find the show. Find the feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, Castbox, Overcast, which is another one. Other places that you can find podcasts. And like Bill Nye the Critic Guy earlier in the start of the episode, leave us a nice 5-star review, and we'll read it out and inaugurate you into our Wonderful People Hall of Fame, which is different to the Mustache Hall of Fame, unless you have a mustache, in which case you may be in both and sit alongside the great mustaches of Lee Marvin in Paint Your Wagon and Captain Hook. I don't know, he also has a mustache. Thank you very much for listening. Here's to the next 50, Nolan, and the 50 after that. Why don't you go? I don't know. I've lost the plot. Nolan, see us out before I get too smiley.
Oh God. Okay. Maybe the true top 5 list was the friends we made along the way.
Oh, that's perfect. If that doesn't sum up this show, I don't know what does. Bye, guys.